about a man's body.
No.
Is there any law?
No. It's no.
That is actually the same question that Vice President Harris, then Senator Harris, asked Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh during his Senate confirmation hearing.
Can you think of any laws that give the government the power to make decisions about the male body?
I'm not thinking of any right now, Senator.
Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation of the Supreme Court, the second of Donald Trump's three nominees, helped conservatives get one step closer to the supermajority on the court that they needed to then overturn Roe versus Wade. Brett Kavanaugh managed to get confirmed despite under oath allegations of sexual misconduct by psychologist Dr. Christine Blasey Ford while they were both in high school.
I believed he was going to rape me. I tried to yell for help. When I did, Brett put his hand over my mouth to stop me from yelling. This is what terrified me the most and has had the most lasting impact on my life. It was hard for me to breathe, and I thought that Brett was accidentally going to kill me. The details about that night that bring me here today are the ones I will never forget. They have been seared into my memory and have haunted me episodically as an adult.
Another woman, Deborah Ramirez, a classmate of Brett Kavanaugh's at Yale University, came forward with an allegation of sexual misconduct against Brett Kavanaugh, accusing him of exposing himself to her at a college party. In a dramatic move at the time, two senators, Republican Jeff Flake and Democrat Chris Coons, managed to get the Kavanaugh vote delayed for 1 week so that the FBI could investigate both accusations. Today, the Washington Post reports that after a 6-year inquiry, Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse found that the Trump White House hampered the FBI investigation, including preventing them from interviewing relevant witnesses and following up on tips. Our next guest, Senator Whitehouse, said his report today shows that the investigation was, quote, a sham controlled by the Trump White House for political cover to Senate Republicans to put Judge Kavanaugh on track to confirmation. And joining us now is Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island, member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, chair of the Subcommittee on Federal Courts. He's also the author of The Scheme: How the Right Wing Used Dark Money to Capture the Supreme Court. Senator Whitehouse, thank you very much for joining us tonight and for doing this work, because I have to say I wasn't the only one who suspected at the time that in this extended week or so, there was very little the FBI would really be able to accomplish in that amount of time. What I couldn't know is how little they tried.
Yeah, the four key conclusions of our report. First, when Donald Trump told America that the FBI had free rein to run down these accusations, what he said was false. They had nothing of any kind. They were told exactly what to do every step of the way by his White House lawyers. The second thing we were assured of was that this was an investigation that was done by the book, that they were following their procedures. We could be assured that they were following the proper regular procedures. In point of fact, what we discovered is that in a supplemental background investigation, there is no book. They propped up an imaginary book for everybody to take some confidence in, but there is no book. It was the White House giving direction all the way. One of the White House directions was, don't look for corroborating evidence. So when so many senators said, but there's no corroboration, that was deliberate. The FBI was steered away from corroborating evidence. And the last major finding is that the tip line that they set up was a fake. No tip was ever investigated by the FBI. They were separated out from the general tip line traffic, everything related to Kavanaugh, and sent up to the White House, where the White House political people buried them. Or worse, used them to steer the FBI away from witnesses.
So the tip line was actually set up in a way that could have worked, but what came in on the tip line was then steered away from any productive investigation.
Yeah, there's actually a procedure when tips come in where they're sorted for importance, relevancy, credibility. You can imagine that some of the calls that come into the FBI tip line are a little eccentric. So they sort through it, but there is a process, and that process ends with credible tips being reviewed and investigated. And there were plenty of credible tips that came in the FBI tip line. In fact, there were tips that were so credible that the FBI agents flagged them for the White House saying, hey, you might want to look at this one. But then they waited for the signal from the White House that they could investigate, and they got nothing but dead silence. End result, 0 tips ever investigated.
What could have been accomplished in the time that was allotted if it was an honest investigation?
Oh, the FBI is a big organization. It has thousands of agents. If they had wanted to do this right, they could have done it right. The FBI does a lot of big things fast when it matters. In this case, they had really no authority to follow their own procedures because of the peculiarity of this being a supplemental background investigation. So they did only what the Trump White House told them to, and they told them, don't find any corroborating evidence, don't pursue leads, only interview these people, only ask these questions, and don't bother us. And at the same time, senior officials from the FBI, the Department of Justice, the Trump White House, and the president himself were saying, this is all fine. They have free reign. They're following their regular procedures. You can trust what they're going to come up with. It was a complete smokescreen.
Why did it take 6 years for you to be able to tell this full story?
Well, the Trump administration obviously put up a complete brick wall. We couldn't even get things like the FBI policies for how they run their tip line. We ended up finding that on the internet, but they wouldn't provide it to us, which, by the way, was extremely aggravating because at the same time that they were giving us nothing, they were delivering box loads of sensitive information about the Crossfire Hurricane investigation, the Trump-Russia investigation to Senate Republicans. So I sat there in front of my brick wall watching the traffic roaring by in the Republican fast lane. It was very frustrating. And after that, it was even slow slogging through the Biden administration. The FBI did not want to cooperate.
Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, thank you very much for joining us with this important news tonight.